Hello everyone, thanks for joining us here on Horizon. I'm Rob McClendon. Well, today we begin the new year with our annual economic outlook, and for many, it could not come soon enough. In many ways, 2016 was a tale of two economies. On the national level, we saw a gradual yet modest growth, but here in Oklahoma, the downturn in the energy sector reverberated throughout the state's economy. With more on where we've been and where we're heading, joining me now is our Blaine Singletary.
Rob, Oklahoma has had a challenging 2016. 2017 isn't shaping up to be much easier, but economists say it could be a turning point for the state if policymakers can leverage the resources they have. First things first. Oklahoma's biggest economic driver, the oil industry, which has suffered from a downturn in energy prices, seems to be bottoming out and is ripe for a rebound.
It'll start turning around to be a little positive. It'll start contributing to positive growth so that we can actually start to see a turnaround in the Oklahoma economy. Not, gangbusters by any means, but in a modestly positive direction in an upcoming year.
Dan Rickman is a Regent economic professor at OSU and headed the 2017 Oklahoma Economic Outlook Conference. He says it's easy to look at oil as the final answer, but then you'd be missing the good news.
We've had growth in the state, in construction, in education services, in leisure and hospitality. So we had a number of sectors where we had growth, but it was overshadowed by the decline in the energy sector and in manufacturing sectors that were closely connected.
It's a similar story across the rest of the country, where tepid GDP growth is expected to continue.
About 2% for the next 10 years as far as we can see. I mean, if you take the slowing of the labor force growth and the fact that our labor productivity growth is really rather ordinary again, that adds up to about 2% growth per year.
So how then do we boost that GDP? Is there a way we can push that above 2%?
The boost will have to become in productivity because we're nearing full employment.
With the Federal Reserve planning to keep interest rates going up, productivity is the only way we'd see a boost to America's bottom line. And that's difficult to do through policy alone. At full employment, the only real way to boost productivity is through growing the workforce. And in Oklahoma, that's proving to be easier said than done.
Our labor force tends to grow slower than the national average. So if it's going slower, we'll probably go even slower yet. So we often rely on people moving from other parts of the country to get our boost in labor force and population. But of course, that requires our economy to be creating jobs at a higher level.
Unemployment has remained consistently flat in the Sooner State, but that could be because people who have lost their jobs are leaving the state to find new ones. Couple that with fewer people coming into the state for work, and you can see the real problem.
We think it's pretty important on both sides that, businesses, when they talk about locating a business or relocating an office, they will talk to their employees, and if their employees say, no, we really don't want to live there, then the firm doesn't move there. So, at some point you have to be attractive to the labor force to get the firms to move there as well.
And Oklahoma hasn't been the most attractive lately, especially to young, college-educated millennials. While housing prices are lower, the quality of life is lacking compared to other states. And then there's the national headlines coming out of the state, highlighting Oklahoma's low teacher pay, amongst other things.
Traveled by unprecedented surge in earthquakes.
So we need to change the narrative. And so I think this maybe has to start at the governmental level, that we really at a conscious level need to change, the perception of people.
And low teacher pay and low educational spending could bring about additional dangers for our economy.
And they talk about the size of their classes and how it changed the educational environment and achievement that you can get from the students. That's going to have long-term consequences, not to mention that it makes it harder to recruit teachers.
It's been known that people will pay much more to live in a neighborhood with good schools nearby. And on top of all that, if we want to continue that growth in those other sectors that have been doing well despite the energy downturn, we need to start educating our students for those fields today.
Obviously, we need further diversification. We're generally underrepresented outside the energy industry.
By keeping our own in the state and attracting others into it, Oklahoma can reclaim the spot it once had in leading the national economy. And the other big trump card in this equation is where the new presidential administration will take us in the next 4 years. Rickman told me it's still too soon to tell what policies will come out of Washington and how those will affect the Sooner State.
All right, thank you so much, Blaine.
You're welcome, Rob.
Now, when we return, a national perspective on the 2017 economy.